You are with the University of Karate, and we're here again with Mike Biddle, and we're talking about Uechi-ryu and the system of half hard, half soft. As we talk about this, we're continuing our conversation, looking at a lot of different principles of history, science, the physics, the development of mind and body in this discipline, if you would call it, and even the disciplines that come together that make up what's called martial arts in the style of Uechi-ryu. We're talking today about something that centers around something that people may know about, which is the 5 Shaolin animal arts: tiger, dragon, crane, leopard, and snake. The Uechi-ryu style focuses on tiger, dragon, and crane. In a previous study, we talked about how we see a lot of very hard or very tiger, to some people's thinking, and very soft in Uechi-ryu nowadays. And there's a confusion, I believe, that happens when it comes to the idea of tiger, dragon, and snake. Tiger, dragon, crane, leopard, and snake, I should say. And what they mean. And it comes a lot from popular media and also just from tradition. People watch kung fu movies and they see individuals talk about the Shaolin Temple, and they talk about the 5 animal arts. And the types of techniques that they see in these movies that are representing crane or snake and so on are very dramatized. They're very, let's say this. They're the type of forms you'd see in Chinese opera or in street performances where you see the lion dance or the dragon dance in different parades. Those types of techniques and motions and forms are for show. And even when it comes to martial arts, you find that there's a term called the outdoor students and the indoor students, where masters of martial arts have a financial need to have students to have their lifestyle and to live. And they'll have a lot of students, and they'll be outdoor students, and they'll learn some of these things that are basically Chinese opera. They're not being taught the actual style until they become tested and they become an indoor student. And then all the theatrics and all the wushu type of acrobatics kind of goes away, and you actually learn what is the true meaning of the tiger, the crane, the leopard, and the snake, because it's not the animal itself. It's something that was brought by the animal to teach a principle that's necessary for deploying techniques and developing power. So we want to ask Sensei Biddle today to kind of take us through. Of course, we're not going to make everyone an indoor student. We don't want to have him, give away too many of his secrets, but we want to talk about the tiger, the dragon, and the crane, and start to open up the understanding of those listening to what these things really mean. What is the emphasis, the tiger emphasis? What does that actually mean? What is the crane emphasis? What was taken from these animals that are essential to deploying martial arts correctly that would help, especially in the practice of Uechi-ryu, which is tiger, dragon, and crane? Sensei Biddle.
Well, when you think of animal styles, and I'll stay with tiger, dragon, crane because that's what Uechi-ryu is. The other animals I only have a quasi-working knowledge of. I've never been deep enough to figure out the depth of them, so I won't try. But tiger, dragon, crane. Tiger is fairly easy to see, at least on the surface level. We tend to gravitate toward tiger. It's perceived as the power, the ferocity of the animal, and even some of the hand positions are when we have our hands, where our hand palms, not in palms up or palms out, we're in a clawed tiger type position. And some of our strikes are very tiger, and like when you deliver the waoki technique, you're in a tiger position. And so there's levels of this, though. There's the physical, and there's also, let's call it, for lack of a better word, the spiritual, but I don't mean that in a religious sense whatsoever. I mean it in a conceptual sense. But also, it's actually fascinating that Master Kambun pulled 3 styles in, because most don't. It's very difficult, and it's an amazing feat that he was able to accomplish. And I can't understand the level of genius that he possessed. But So tiger, we can look at some of the strikes and we can look at the strength and we look at, if a tiger, when it gets ready to pounce, when it gets ready to attack, it builds itself, it bunches up, and then when it's ready, it releases and explodes. And then you have claws and you have this ferocity of just, I'm going to kill and destroy. That's a philosophy and a physical representation. But then we add another concept, dragon. Dragon that is a mysterious, non-existent beast, but the Chinese have a concept of it. And to be honest with you, as a cultural difference, we cannot actually grasp their concept of dragon the way that they do it. We're not dealing with the same reference point, so we can only conjecture what that intent was. I honestly can say I don't understand dragon to the level that they would have in that culture. Somebody that is in that culture could probably expand on that more, and we could probably figure that out. But with that said, I do understand some of the ideas because I've been told them, and some of them I figured out. But on the physical side, if you're just talking about a movement pattern, if you watch the dragon style, it's something that nobody really, very rarely, I've only found one instructor that taught dragon. It's a way of moving, and it would be easier to show it than to talk about it. But let's say if we were doing, I like to use the example in Quechua. I'm not very good at pronouncing, I'm very not linguistic, so pardon my butchering of anything. Me and Ted Kresge are very similar in that regard. So in Quechua, when you turn, you do a circle block and you do a strike. In a dragon movement pattern, the circle block and the step out would be together. So the arm would, when the turn was completed, the arm would do the circle block. So that the turning of the foot, it's hard to describe, the turning of the foot and the movement of the arm happens together at the same time. And I'm going to take a pause here on that. This comes into play at a very high level. And we'll get into this I'm going to prelude this, but we're not doing this today. It gets into when we look at the 3:13:36, Sanshin Seisan Sansei Ru. It becomes of absolute tantamount importance to understand dragon. This is where dragon, pardon me for being over dramatic, explodes. But we're not going to see that yet. But the movement pattern, when you turn in Quechua, the hand goes down to do the circle block as the foot turns and finishes. When the turn is complete, the circle block can begin and the strike can follow. Now, that is body, foot, hand coordination in unison. That's dragon. You figure a big lumbering beast, it's moving together. It can't move segments. It's got to move whole pieces together. It has to turn a certain way. It's lumbering, but it's beautiful in its grace, and the power is absolutely off the charts. That's the conceptual idea that I grasped from dragon. I could go a lot farther on that, but that's probably given enough. It's a movement pattern of hand-arm coordination. Now, on the Quechua example, I can accelerate that dragon by doing the circle block punch in the turn at the same time. Most people turn, circle, punch, withdraw. Dragon, you turn, and as you're turning, you're circling and punching. The punch is completed when the turn is finished. That has a better application for self-defense. Because Uechi-ryu is not a static art. It's not a one-directional art. It's an infinite level art, and you have to be able to move in any direction. The best way to move in that is dragon. Crane now is it's fascinating with crane because a lot of ways I see a lot more crane in the movement patterns than I do with the other arts. So, example, when you do your circle block and you turn the palm over and then you pull into the elbows, you're in a classic crane position. And Crane also deals with joints and manipulation of joints. So to give you an idea of a crane movement in, let's say, a reverse punch, when you draw the fist back, most people leave the palm up, perpendicular, vertically facing the sky. If you turn that palm over a little more, so you turn the thumb down slightly, it creates exaggerated tension in the arm. Then if you maintain that tension as the arm extends and you hold that and then you release it, it's joint power. It's joint tension. You're creating joint tension. If you're going to do a karate chop, and I'll segue to something when I get done with this explanation. If you do a karate chop and you take the hand back, you don't just leave the hand facing toward your target, the palm toward the target, or even outside the target. You turn that away. That palm turns and extends behind. The wrist turns all the way as far as it can dynamically turn. And then as the strike is initiated and the elbow leads, again, this is crane. If you picture the wing, if a crane strikes with a wing, it's going to lead with the lead part of its wing. The arm is still contracted, and then it all releases, and the joint releases the tension.
It looks like a baseball kind of...
Well, that's the segue. If you watch a football player, a quarterback, he doesn't take the ball and the point doesn't face you. He turns the point behind him. Ah. Everybody watch this now. Go home. When you watch a quarterback, he's going to turn the ball that's facing, when he starts with, he turns it all the way behind him. And then when he throws that, the elbow leads, and then he turns that down. That's crane. That's an example of crane. Now, in the movement pattern of crane, I would say if you watch the movement pattern of crane, it's very flowing, very circular, very centripetal. It's moving around. It's
balance.
Yeah, a crane has got to move. It's not an animal that can take an impact. It's got to be subtle. So a crane is going to make subtle movements and changes of direction and in a very flowing, continuous fashion, non-linear.
You know, as we talk about this and the tiger, dragon, and crane, there are a lot of people that in Uechi-ryu study Uechi-ryu and have studied Uechi-ryu that largely are focusing on or emphasizing the development of the body and tiger. They want to be hard. They want to strike hard. They want to be hard. But we don't see much of this balance and flow and, this ability to snap the movements. We see a lot of hard punching or, trying to develop this brute strength, but the snapping, like the crane, and the graceful movements, even the jump in Seisan, that jump onto one leg, that's all crane. We don't see that type of mastery. Is it because we don't understand the emphasis that we should be placing in the development, or is it that maybe some people just don't get to that point because they're not there? The teacher says, "Hey, if you want to do tiger," but is it that people just are not really understanding? Why don't we see that flowing, dynamic kind of emphasis that you're talking about in some of these things like dragon and crane?
Yeah, I think it's...
Is it lost?
Well, that's the easy answer. That's probably most truthful. And honestly, it's easy to fall in love with tiger. I mean, it looks tough.
When you're young, right?
It looks tough. Yeah, when you're young and you want to be hard and strong and powerful. But Kanban didn't have just tiger. It was tiger, dragon, crane. And the combination of the three have to be better than one. That depends on the student. Not everyone wants to explore those avenues. But the doors have to be opened. And that's what we're hoping to do here, is open some of these doors. So someone goes, "Hey, what is dragon?" "I don't know." "What is crane?" "I don't know. I've always done tiger. What if I want to do more?" Well, the question begins with how.
That's a good place to stop. Let's put a comma there, and we'll be coming back again to talk more about these and other topics. We're at the University of Karate. You've been with Mike Biddle. He's been giving you some of the insights that he's gathered over 45 years of studying the martial arts, not just Uechi-ryu, but the martial arts. But again, as we have these insights and he shares them with you, we pray that you would contemplate them and bring them into your understanding and your daily practice. We're continuing to study. We'll be back again. Please hit your subscribe button. Please like this video and join us next time at the University of Karate. Thank you so much.